We recruit emerging filmmakers. We want to encourage as many female filmmakers from Pakistan as possible to go on, make their mark. We'll give you the funding, we'll give you the mentorship, the training.
I guess so. I mean, I think it's probably easier for me to do it for other people's films than my own. But I think every film, every documentary is like a puzzle. It's a problem to be solved, and somehow I love problem solving. So I just love watching things and being like, okay, wait, what if this were here, this is here?
And I just felt so deeply about everything around me, especially films, and I felt that I want to be behind the camera. I want to make those films that make other people feel deeply as well.
Yeah, something I can't tell my mom. Mom, I'm so sorry for what I'm about to say. I don't know if I'll घर जाऊंगी डांट पड़ेगी या नहीं, but डर डर के नहीं जीने का.
So we're here on a very, very special episode of Freestyling today. I have not one, but 4 lovely ladies with me today. And I thought we'd just kick it off and jump right into it by letting them introduce themselves, which is my favorite thing to do. So one by one, we can start from this side. We can start from this side. Who wants to go? I think you're ready for it. You look like you are ready for it. So how about you tell me start by introducing yourself and tell me your origin story.
Okay, hi. My name is Maira Pasha, and I'm one of the fellows for this program. And I've been a director before, I've edited before, and now I'm working on this documentary. Origin story would be...
Something you can't tell your mom?
Yeah, something I can't tell my mom. Mom, I'm so sorry for what I'm about to say. I don't know if I'll घर जाऊंगी डांट पड़ेगी या नहीं, but डर डर के नहीं जीने का.
It's okay, she's not watching this.
So, I basically grew up in Karachi, and that was the time जब हम लोग सुबह उठते थे और अम्मी कहती थी बेटा वापस सो जाओ हड़ताल हुई है. And that was the peak of my life. And I grew up at that time in a school. मैं उस school से पढ़ के निकली हूँ. That was basically an intersection of Karachi, जहाँ कराची का हर कोई बच्चा पढ़ता था वहाँ पे. And it was आपके पास politicians के बच्चे थे, आपके पास वहाँ पे रिक्शे वालों के बच्चे थे. So I grew up in a very intersectional place. So I had friends from all across different backgrounds and everything. So I feel like that was something that influenced me greatly growing up. I always loved writing, so I started writing and everything, then went nowhere with that. And then uske baad I just turned that towards a degree. I thought, what about journalism? What about actually getting to do something about what you've seen? And then journalism went into filmmaking because my dad was a director, पुराने PTV के दौर में and everything.
Very cool.
वो नहीं वो 50-50 वाली जो आवाम थी एक generation अलग सी.
The golden years.
The golden years, yeah. So that was like उस time के कहते हैं director. So film की इज्जत बचपन से थी. अब ये दो चीजें जब आपस में combine हुई तो हम आज यहाँ पहुंचे documentary की दहज पे. So yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. It's a solid origin story.
It is very much.
Yeah,
hard one to follow.
So many layers. we can switch to that side. Yeah, we can switch to that side. Let's start with you, Ghinwa. Because I feel like I should have started with you because the reason why all you ladies are here is, you're technically spearheading it also.
Yes, that's true.
Right? Okay, so let's go with you.
Okay, my name is Ghinwa Jamali, and I am the project manager at SOC Films and by extension Patakha Pictures. So what we do with the program itself is that we recruit emerging filmmakers. We want to encourage as many female filmmakers from Pakistan as possible to go on, make their mark. We'll give you the funding, we'll give you the mentorship, the training, go and make your films, right? So we're here concluding our 4th program in the past almost 3 years. So these lovely ladies have been excellent program fellows and they're doing such a wonderful job. Origin story wise, I am not a filmmaker. I do not come from a filmmaking background. I'm an economics major from a business school.
This is why I love this podcast. This is why we do this origin story segment.
If 10 years ago or so, my father would have known that I would be working for like a documentary production house, he would probably not speak to me for a very long time because it's just like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? So I just got here. It was a complete fluke. I was working for a nonprofit, somehow met some people and just got involved in
much like
here,
how most
basically.
of our jobs came about. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah, that's how I got the job here to talk to a few people. Next thing I know, it's 10 years later.
Things just seem to happen. Like whatever you plan for, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just like tumbles to and ends up being something that you never expected, which
Absolutely.
is great, I guess.
And any regrets? No, right?
No, absolutely not. I've learned so much. I've met such wonderful people and it's excellent.
Right.
That's me.
I'm getting some solid origin stories. I know it's a lot of pressure, but now we're going to jump right back to you. Yeah, it's your
We're
turn now.
zigzagging.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sabika Noor, and I am a filmmaker. I won't say established. I can barely say the word filmmaker when I'm talking about myself, but I can say newly established filmmaker. Work-wise, every day, my daily job is working with this Islamabad-based studio called Sana Bashir Studios. So
We know them well.
you know them well.
Yeah.
You met Zakir, you met Saina. We've
Yeah,
met also.
episode 4, I believe,
Yeah.
of this podcast. But yeah,
So over there, I'm working on the documentary on Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. Also, shout out to whoever's in Lahore by the 7th. I don't know if it'll be out or not, but there's an event with Michael Brook. So everyone in Lahore just
I heard
attend.
about it, and I'm going to convince
You're
you
gonna fly
after this
out?
podcast. I'm going to convince you to get them here also.
I'll budget you in.
Yeah.
Somehow. So work-wise, that's what I'm doing. And then I was also involved with her Earth Advocates at SOC at Patakha Pictures. Origin story-wise, it's so bland to say, but I've always just been someone who was very, I had a lot of empathy growing up, I felt. And I just felt so deeply about everything around me, especially films. And I felt that I want to be behind the camera. I want to make those films that make other people feel deeply as well. So hopeless romantic maybe, but somehow from that fiction romantic side, I've come into documentaries to make something
I
of
don't
myself.
think that's bland at all. I completely understand. I mean, growing up, I was obsessed with National Geographic, and to date, it's on my bucket list. It's my dream job. And then when I met Saina, I was just like,
Yeah, it's
help
great.
me get there. But I completely understand, and I think it's fantastic that you guys are doing this.
Thank you.
My friend from the makeup
Hello.
room,
Yeah,
it
no,
is your
makeup.
turn.
Okay, so my name is Jessie Epstein. I'm mostly a documentary filmmaker, but I teach at Emerson College. My origin story, you reminded me. So my parents didn't allow me to watch television growing up. So apparently now I'm a filmmaker. I don't know what that means, but I actually have other friends who were not allowed to watch television and who are also filmmakers. So who knows? But I will say when I was at university, I was taking all these classes, and then I had one more required class like before I graduated, and I was like, oh, I'll take this intro to documentary, and like that changed my whole life.
Right.
But yeah, so I do make documentaries. There's a joke I feel like among my friends, were like, well, why are we still doing this? We're like, I don't know, but I can't stop. So somehow it just fits my brain.
I feel like that it works because every documentary filmmaker I've ever spoken to has said the same thing. Why am I still doing this?
I don't know.
I have health issues because of this. Zakir, he's like, I have so many health issues, but I'm still doing it because I love it.
And also, I will say, I really love watching rough cuts, and I love like seeing, sort of helping people tell the stories they want to tell. So like, I like seeing what comes out of people, and this has been an incredible experience.
Yeah, she's been amazing. The thing she mentioned about the rough cut, when we went into our film, like we showed her the first cut, we had such a different picture of what we'd done in mind, and she could just immediately identify the core of what we were trying to avoid. Like, I mentioned I'm a journalist, I'm like a journalism student and everything. My thesis is due in a month, so like I'm doing like a research-based thesis and everything, right? My documentary ended up being a research paper in documentary form, and I could not realize that. She pointed that out immediately, and she was like, why don't you work with it? Why are you trying to avoid it? And I was like, So at the end of the day, it ended up being a case study. That was all her.
I mean, it comes from experience too, right? Do you feel like after years of making your own films and then also helping other people with their films, you can pick up on things? Because I feel like after 10 years of doing what I do, there's some of the kids over here, they're like fascinated. They're like, you picked up on this like in 3 seconds, something that we didn't even notice. And I'm like, yeah, because I've been there, done that, and horribly messed it up like 7 years ago. And which is why I know what not to do or what to do or whatever. So it comes from experience, right?
I guess so. I mean, I think it's probably easier for me to do it for other people's films than my own. But I think every film, every documentary is like a puzzle. It's a problem to be solved. And somehow I love problem solving. So I just love watching things and being like, okay, wait, what if this were here, this is here? But again, it's more like trying to pay attention to who's making the film and sort of not telling them how to make a film, but really trying to say like, well, what are they trying to say? And then how is this useful in the world? Because, you know, what these people are making are not only just films, but I feel like they have the possibility to change policy. And, you know, that to me is exciting, to have an impact in the world.
So let's get into your films a little bit. If you could just give us a brief, like what, because no one's watched it. You're still in the editing process, I believe. So what is it that people can expect from your films, actually?
So my film is essentially, it's a case study on रेहड़ी गोट कराची की फ्रिंजेस के ऊपर एक छोटा सा फिशिंग विलेज है जो कि 400 साल से वहाँ मौजूद है एंड जो कि अब के दौर में कम्प्लीटली इनएक्सेसिबल है. तो रेहड़ी गोट के ऊपर क्लाइमेट चेंज के क्या असरात पड़े हैं उनके ऊपर दिस डॉक्यूमेंट्री इज़ बेस्ड एंड उसके अंदर लार्जली रेहड़ी गोट की कहानी ये है कि रेहड़ी गोट एक कम्प्लीटली 400 साल से फिशिंग विलेज था एंड वहाँ पे उसी से उनका कारोबार चलता था. उनको इसके अलावा वहाँ के मर्द जाते थे नौकरियों पे, ख़वातीन पढ़ती लिखती थी, ख़वातीन भी माहीगीरी में इन्वॉल्व थी लेकिन थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा पढ़ लेती थी क्योंकि मर्द छोटी उम्र में चले जाते थे. मर्दों को अब ये कारोबार की सहूलत नहीं है क्योंकि अब वहाँ पे उसकी कोस्ट पे इंडस्ट्री सेटअप हुई हुई हैं और 20 साल से वहाँ पे कचरा इतना डंप हुआ है, वहाँ पे गंदगी इतनी डंप हुई है. हमने एक एक्सपर्ट से बात की थी, वहाँ बता रहे थे वहाँ पे लाल पानी आता है, गिरता है जब उधर से, और उसके फ्यूम्स इतने टॉक्सिक होते हैं कि आपको ब्रिज के ऊपर तक आते हैं एंड आपकी बेहोशी की हालत हो जाती है. उस इलाके में अब वहाँ पे चूँकि मर्द नौकरी कर नहीं सकते हैं और उनको कोई ट्रेड आता नहीं है तो उनमें अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट बढ़ गई है. ड्रग अब्यूज़, alcoholism and all these issues have just come to the surface and as a consequence of that the women have stepped out of their homes and are now working in the very industries जो कि कचरा डंप कर रही हैं वहाँ पे. And at this
It's a
time,
vicious cycle.
it's a horrific cycle.
Yeah.
बाकी मैं भी इश्यूज अभी बताती हूँ. वहाँ पे सबसे एक मेजर जो मसला आया वो ये था कि उधर चूँकि अब ख़वातीन जा रही हैं नौकरियाँ करने और मर्द हजरात ड्रग अब्यूज़ में, तो बच्चों का क्या? वो बच्चे सड़कों पे फिर रहे थे, सेक्सुअल अब्यूज़ से लेके ड्रग के विक्टिम्स से लेके बच्चे डूब जाते थे क्योंकि समंदर करीब है, ये सब कुछ था. तो वहाँ पे खातून में कुलसुम अनवर नाम है उनका, उन्होंने माहीगीर डे केयर सेंटर लॉन्च किया और वहाँ पे अब पूरे के पूरे रेडी गोट के बच्चे वहाँ पे पढ़ते हैं और देन इवनिंग में डे केयर सेंटर के अंदर बच्चे रहते हैं. फिर माएँ जब नौकरी से आती हैं तो बच्चों को वापस ले जाती हैं. सो दैट्स जस्ट वन द सेंट्रल एस्पेक्ट. अब उस इलाके की एरिया पॉलिटिक्स इसमें कैसे कन्वीन करती हैं, उधर सोशो पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन क्या है, इकोनॉमिक सिचुएशन. Basically, it's the documentary that's a case study on all these different aspects of Ready Goat and the impact that they've suffered from climate change, even though they do not contribute to it at all.
Right. Which I mean is a conversation that's very, like, right now it's very relevant. It's happening around us. I mean, Pakistan is suffering also, and we don't contribute to it as much as everyone else does. So how did you, like, what is it that made you decide this was my subject matter? This is what I'm getting into?
सो आज से तकरीबन 1 साल पहले मैं कॉन्फ्रेंस में गई थी, वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट कॉन्फ्रेंस की. वहाँ पे खातून आई थी जिन्हीं का भी मैंने नाम लिया, कुलसूम अनवर. उन्होंने कहा मैं माहीगीर डे केयर सेंटर जाती हूँ. उस दिन मैंने सुना, सबने कहा कितनी अच्छी कहानी है, और उसके बाद हम घर चले गए और भूल गए. 1 साल बाद जब हमने ये प्रोग्राम का एडवर्टाइजमेंट देखा तो मैं ड्राइंग रूम में अपनी पार्टनर से बात कर रही थी कि प्रोग्राम अच्छा है, ट्राई करें इसके. फ़ोन पे थे हम लोग, सामने कप रखा हुआ था माहीगीर डे केयर सेंटर. वो कहानी मेरे घर के अंदर मौजूद थी और ये रेडी गोट की कहानी कराची के अंदर मौजूद है. मैंने पूरी ज़िंदगी यहाँ पे गुजारी है. एंड व्हेन आई वेंट देयर टू सी व्हाट वाज गोइंग ऑन, आई रियलाइज कि इस शहर में, मेरे इस घर के अंदर ये कहानी मौजूद थी और मुझे मालूम भी नहीं था कि वहाँ पे सिचुएशन क्या चल रही है. एंड इवन दो वी वेंट देयर विद अ फोकस ऑन कि चलो औरतों के इश्यूज़ हाईलाइट करते हैं या फिर आओ चलो देखते हैं कि हो क्या रहा है यहाँ पे, माहीगीर डे केयर सेंटर पर फोकस करते हैं. When we went there, everything from the local politics to the area की accessibility, बच्चों की health issues and everything, it just came to the surface and we were like, this is a completely undiscovered area. I've never heard of the issues of this area and it's insane because there are so many people living there and these are the people that are at the front lines of climate change. हमारा शूट 1.5 महीने आगे हमें पुश करना पड़ा था क्योंकि जब साइक्लोन आया तो इनको हिट किया था एंड जो डॉक्स पे हमने शूट करना था they went under water. एंड हमने अपना शूट आगे पुश किया तो हमें ये इनकन्वीनियंस था, वहाँ उन लोगों के एरियाज डूबे हैं.
Their lives are literally changing.
Exactly. So point इस डॉक्यूमेंट्री का ये कि in a world full of statistics, in a world full of experts quoting about climate change, you need to talk to the people who are suffering and bring their voices to the front, because no one can tell you what's going on other than them or better than them.
That's solid. That was excellent. And I 100% agree with you, because we tend to live in our little silos. We live in our little bubbles and we talk about it. Like right now, I'm talking about it. We've launched a whole campaign here at Dawn talking about the effects of climate change. But people like you are actually going out there, speaking to those people, seeing it firsthand. And then I call you here and then we talk about it some more. I hope that it has some sort of impact, and I hope people understand after watching your film.
I hope so too. That's the hope, to bring these voices to the front when policymakers जो यहाँ जाते भी नहीं हैं, politicians जो इस area के candidates हैं वो उन areas में जाते भी नहीं हैं, उनको at least घर के उनके couches की सहूलत से ये मिले कि हाँ ये area exist करता है, देख तो लो at least कि यहाँ पे है क्या.
Right. So your film, what's it called?
So our film is called Lost to the Light.
Right.
And it's a film that's based in the region of Tharparkar, in a city called Nagar Parkar. And uske andar ek aur remote village hai called Ikraro. So just to give a little context about what Thar is like, and what really drew us to Thar was the musical aspect actually. So Thar's culture and the musical culture is so inspired by nature. It's inspired by nature too, it's like especially the rain. So the rain is a motif for them that kind of symbolizes their sustenance. It symbolizes, like, without rain, they won't have growth.
Anything,
They
yeah.
won't have crops.
Right.
Because otherwise, for the 8 months of the year, it's just a desert. 4 months of the year, they have crops. And in those 4 months, they'll have to quickly try to make sure कि इनकी फसल उग रही है. They can sell their crops. They can store enough crops for the whole year. So it's just a really hard place to live in. But those 4 months are full of happiness because they have greenery around them. And every song, like we went there and we tried to get some performances in our shoot. So we didn't even have to prompt anyone कि आप हमें बारिश के बारे में गाएं या कुछ ऐसे गाएं, you know,
Because
खुशी.
every song
Because
revolves
every
around
song
that.
has some metaphor or something about the rain. So we didn't even have to prompt them. It was that intrinsic to their culture, musical culture. Now what we found is that their relationship with rain is changing. So what was once inspiring to make music, to inspiring the 4 months of happiness that they have, now the rain is inspiring fear because the rain comes with lightning. And this lightning is striking the village in such a way that people are dying. Before, it was a one-off situation, like maybe in a year one person would die. But in the last 5 years, on average, 20 people are dying a year. And in these remote villages, जहाँ पे there's no hospital, there's barely any network, and they just live lives of such simplicity that it's like it really puts the imbalance into display. Because it's people who are facing the brunt of climate change but have absolutely nothing to do with the human intervention that causes that climate change.
Right. It's fascinating that, like, both of your stories, you guys went there with something in mind, where you were like, okay, I'm going to tell this story. And then when you got there, like with the music or with the daycare center, you went there with this perspective that I'm going to go and tell this story. And then when you got there and you saw what was happening and you talked to a bunch of people, you realized, no, I have to tell a much bigger story. Do you think that happens a lot with documentary filmmakers essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a plan, but then you go in, and also it's so important to have your eyes open of like what is actually happening in front of you, because if you stick to the plan,
Right,
you may miss the actual story or
Right.
something as it unfolds. But I think they did a very good job of like making a plan, having ideas, but then pivoting when it was necessary and really just taking a look at what was there and having the story come from the environment rather from their preconceived notion.
right. And the theme of climate change, was it something that you guys were thinking about for a while? Because out of all, like that, I mean, there are so many social issues. We can literally have documentaries being churned out constantly, especially in Pakistan. Why was it that now you picked climate change? And why was it that, because you guys, every year you have a different theme and then you put it out there and people register, and then you have like lovely women that come on and use their creativity and put together these films. So was there a reason you guys picked climate change now? Or was it something that was in the works for a while?
So, So every year, you're right, we do have, like, with our programs, we have we don't always have one theme that we work with.
Right.
It's usually like a group of themes. It's like last year, it was women empowerment, it was culture, it was art, it was education, healthcare, and climate change. So when people were pitching their films and they were applying to our program, they were free to choose whatever theme from that group and then just, like, just find a story and then pitch their film.
Right.
This year specifically, we did go with climate change. Climate change with the underlying theme of women empowerment. Women empowerment, of course, comes out because we're empowering female filmmakers. So
Right.
that's just right there. But like climate change, also because we're seeing the problems like that are resulting from it, kind of just exponentially just like increase. Like
Right.
2022, the floods, that was devastating. And that, I would say, like prompted like, okay, you know what, maybe we need to have a program in the near future that's specifically targeting climate change. Like, why are we not showing films about that specifically? I mean, the films, once they are completed, once they're completed, they go on their distribution circuit, the festivals, whatever, and then bring it back to Pakistan and then have them screen in like remote areas here, like, have smaller communities like become more aware of what's happening. Like lightning in Thar, for example, the locals there probably don't even know that climate change is the reason that so much has changed over the past few years. I mean, that didn't happen before, right? So the fact that they're so unaware and the fact that they don't know how to mitigate it or deal with it or maybe like change their daily lives in a way that would better equip them or their homes or their lives in a way that they can just deal with the consequences a little better, because Pakistan really isn't one of the major contributors of climate change, but we are facing the brunt
We
of it
keep
everywhere.
shouting it out, but we will be one of the ones that will actually consistently keep facing the brunt of it.
Absolutely. And it doesn't even matter if you're in an urban area or a rural area. It's all the same at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Can I say one thing to that? I think one thing that's so important about this is like, it's one thing to talk about climate change and statistics, and it's another to like tell a story that illuminates these bigger issues. So hopefully, people I think are going to connect deeply with the people in the films and understand this on a different level.
That was
sorry.
literally my next question. That was literally my next question. I'm so glad that you brought it up, because the power of storytelling. I mean, we talk about climate change, we talk about all the statistics where there's articles constantly quoting numbers and this and that. And most of the time, we do live in our bubbles. And most of the time you read an article and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's terrible. And then you forget about it and you move on with your life. But storytelling is something that you guys get to actually tell people's real people's stories, and then people like me watching them feel something. Like you were saying, you used to feel a lot by watching stuff. I feel a lot by watching stuff, and when I do watch documentaries, something resonates and something stays with me, and then it does push me to try and make a difference. So what is it in your films, and what is it that you guys are kind of helping them and guiding them do collectively? One of you can take the question. What is it? What are the challenges that you guys have faced, and what also are the surprises when it comes to storytelling, and also trying to make it as compelling for your audience or reaching them on a very emotional level so that they take away something from it?
I think you have to. The reason the visual medium is something that causes these audiences to have these feelings is because we're so used to seeing reels all day. We're so used to seeing things instead of reading things and processing the words that we're reading.
Right.
And I feel that's the reason having, like, our characters are Gulab and Durga, having their faces on the screen, seeing them talk about their problems, that's why it's just more powerful. But also as filmmakers, like you'd said, challenges, right? So when we went there were infrastructural challenges. There wasn't a road that leads to the gaon. There were so many network issues. It would take 2 hours to reach the gaon. You had to get to a mandir first. Mandir pe phir there are people who pray the bhajans over there. You have to involve them in your whole, like, they become your field producers. And then you find a dune somewhere, and then that's high enough to get like network. Jisme bhi aapko haath like extend karna padta hai ki mile kuch
That's the
call
thing.
bane.
You guys are both from Karachi, and then you
Yeah.
picked like stories that you're telling in a very different place with a very different language also most of the time. So I mean, it must be difficult.
The, and
And
going through
locals
those
also don't
challenges,
trust.
yeah, the going through those challenges though puts into perspective how, like, a few hours of what they feel every day, and that kind of also shows, like, it informed me as a filmmaker how I want to go by this, right? I know that they take 2 hours to get to the highway, which is actually a road for 20, if wahan road hota 20 minutes, but it just takes 2 hours for them to reach a place that will then connect them to the world.
Right.
You know, so it's just be going through that also. It's just these challenges that your characters go through. I think it's really important to get a glimpse at least of that as well, to be able to tell their story.
How about we start with like the surprising thing you learned when you got there? Also, how long have you guys been doing this? Like how long have you been working on your films? Yeah.
Since April.
So, okay.
Yeah, so
Since
like
April.
6-ish months.
Right.
Right.
And how many times have you been to Thai?
Twice.
Okay. I think you'd moved there.
It's beautiful. It's actually beautiful.
The thing about going there was, as you mentioned, challenging locations and everything. We were very much the other over there. Because they have been othered so much कि जब हम उनके spaces में जाते हैं तो we are the intruders over there. अब आप जब इन इलाकों में जाते हो तो आपको उनके लिहाज से अपने आप को ढालना होता है. लेकिन इसका मतलब ये भी होता है कि आपको बहुत से इश्यूज नेविगेट करने हैं, नॉट जस्ट एज अ फिल्म मेकर बट एज अ डिप्लोमैट. हम वहाँ गए, हम एक साहब है वहाँ पे, अनवर खास खेली नाम है उनका, फेस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन चलाते हैं जो कि माहीगीर जो कम्युनिटी है उनके हकूक़ के लिए बात करती है, उनके लाइवलीहुड्स, उनको ट्रांजिशन कराना, नए ट्रेड सिखाना, ये सब काम करती है. ही वॉज बेसिकली आवर गाइड अराउंड दैट एरिया. सो डूइंग दैट वी वर एबल टू नेविगेट सच अ डिफिकल्ट सिचुएशन, क्योंकि रेडी गोट चूँकि इतना आइसोलेटेड है, वहाँ पे 17 क्लैन्स हैं. एंड वो लाइक आई मेंशन वहाँ पे पॉलिटिशियंस नहीं आते, राइट? अब पॉलिटिशियंस वहाँ पे एक है मेरे ख्याल से जो उस इलाके में रहते हैं एक पार्टी के, तो उनको वोट मिल जाता है, बट इलाके की सिचुएशन हमने देखी, लोकल से बात किया, देयर इज नॉट मच वर्क बीइंग डन. सो ऑल ऑफ द पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन इज बीइंग हैंडल्ड बाय द क्लैन्स ओवर देयर. उनके बड़े होते हैं, वहाँ जिरगा बैठता है, कोई भी छोटी सी बात तो जिरगा के पास जाती है. अब द थिंग इज, जब इतने से एरिया के अंदर 17 क्लैन्स मौजूद हैं, तो आपने अगर इस गली से उस गली में कदम रखना है तो आपको पहले क्लियर करवाना है जिरगा के लोगों से या फिर वहाँ पे हेड से कि क्या मैं यहाँ कदम रख सकती हूँ. और अगर एक क्लैन की दूसरे क्लैन से झड़प है तो फिर आप क्या करेंगे? हमने जिन डॉग्स के ऊपर सैलाब आया था जब हम वहाँ गए, हमने शूट करना था, वहाँ पे खातून है कराची के कोस्ट से 6 घंटे के मेरे ख्याल से फासले पे एक जजीरा है गप के नाम से. वहाँ पे एक बहुत बुजुर्ग खातून रहती हैं, पुरानी माहीगीरा हैं वो. अब उनको हम डॉग्स के ऊपर लाके शूट नहीं कर पाए क्योंकि वहाँ पे वो जिस कबीले का एरिया था, जिस क्लैन का वो एरिया था, वो उनके अपना कबीला नहीं था. एंड प्रॉब्लम हो जाती क्योंकि वो अपने उसकी बुजुर्ग हैं. सो वी शॉट हर इन द वाटर. पानी में हमने कश्ती में उतर के उनको शूट किया. देन देयर वाज एन एरिया जहाँ पे वी वांटेड टू गो बिकॉज वहाँ पे ड्रग्स एंड एवरीथिंग दे वर वेरी कॉमन. वी वुड हैव बीन एबल टू कैच दैट ऑन कैमरा. वी कुड नॉट गो देयर बिकॉज वहाँ के कबीले से झगड़ा चल रहा था लोकल्स का. सो दीज वर द सिचुएशंस दैट वी हैड टू नेविगेट एट द एंड, एंड दैट इज समथिंग दैट वी ऑल्सो पुट इन द डॉक्यूमेंट्री बिकॉज दिस इज व्हाट यू हैपेंस व्हेन यू आइसोलेट एंड इग्नोर अ कम्युनिटी सो मच. दे फॉर्म देयर ओन इकोसिस्टम.
I am very excited to see your films. Just from this little things that you're telling me, I'm genuinely really excited. How do you balance, like, I mean, we talked about compelling, but like when it comes to like educating your audiences and stuff, is it just the storytelling that you're banking on, or are you actually also going to put in facts and figures and these kind of things? Because I mean, and it's also a short film, so there are challenges of making a short film because you have, if you work on a project for a year, you're working on, there's so much content. How do you, now we're getting into my favorite part, which is the editing.
Yeah.
How do you leave stuff out? Because I asked, like, this was the one thing that I asked, like, any filmmaker that I talk to. I'm just like, you know, when I'm editing, I want to keep all of it. Because for me, I feel like it's all my baby, right? Like, we had a great conversation here. I'm going to keep all of this in our podcast episode. There's very little that, like, I would want to, like, I want that story to really be told. So how is it that you pick and choose, and how do you pick the moments that you feel like will actually really resonate, and then how do you make that decision?
I think first the mentorship really helps because, and just generally collaboration.
Right.
Since we were partners also, Lamra and I, we could talk about everything and then we could choose sometimes it could be a voting system, sometimes it could be like what we both like. Most of the times we were on the same page though, so that helps. But then talking about it with a couple people, showing it to people who don't have the information we have,
Right.
that's what I feel important, because I have all the information. I want to put everything in because I think everything's important. But someone from an outside perspective, if they see it, I feel that really helps. But also I feel the reason documentaries work for me are that dialogue and visuals, right? So now if I don't necessarily like if someone's, I'm getting a little technical, but
Please
I don't
get
like if
technical.
someone's speaking in that interview is exactly put like as a 20-minute piece, right? You need some visuals in the middle.
Yeah.
But you can't just have them, darakht ki baat kar rahe to darakht ka visual bas aa gaya, right? You have to do it a little smartly. And it's just going through the dialogues and sifting through the dialogues, because redundancy bhi hoti hai, but then you just choose whatever you like spoke the most to you, I feel, in terms of dialogues. Let that inform the story. And then you go on to the visuals. That's essentially how I would like to edit my work.
Right.
But yeah, as a collaboration, that the outside perspective I feel especially helps.
And do you feel like with the mentorship, and also because it's there's a bunch of girls, right? Like we only have 2 of them here, but there are 10 of them, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you guys see each other's work, and then like also like you see, when you show it to them, you see how they're reacting to it? If they're reacting, then you're like, okay, that piece I'm keeping in, and this one I'm going to take out because they didn't react very well. Does that happen? Is there a lot of collaboration amongst all the teams working on their specific films?
So I think this answers your previous question as well. Deciding is relatively easier because आप लोगों से एक सवाल पूछ सकते हो, what stuck out the most in your mind? So this is something we're still on edit for the film, but we're like almost done with our trailers and everything. We're done with our trailers. So when we were deciding the trailers, हमारा question ये था, what would create the most impact, right? So you ask the people what's stuck in your mind when you watch the entire documentary and everything. आपके दिमाग में क्या बात रह गई? You take that out and then you see where you're going with that. So working with such like a big group, you have a variety of opinion, you have a variety of audience, you have so much diversity with you. So that can help you in understanding कि अगर पाकिस्तान के मुख्तलिफ एरियाज से, हमारे पास नॉर्दर्न एरिया से भी कंटेस्टेंट्स मौजूद, पार्टिसिपेंट्स मौजूद हैं, सिंध से, पंजाब से, so इतनी, we have trans people in the program as well, and like there's a big variety of people, right? So you have all these different representations of all these different audiences. You can literally just ask them what speaks the most to you, and so now you have a piece that speaks to everyone.
Can I say one thing to add to that? I think part of the whole, so I think in terms of thinking about the program in general, I think we're all thinking like, this is this experience, it's these films, but it's also beyond this. So it's like, how do you kind of create an ecosystem for filmmakers in Pakistan and networks for people to hire each other? And so I'm always thinking about like, in terms of feedback, it's not a competition. It's really like, let's egg each other on to make the best films that you can possibly make. So it's a lot of like tough love feedback, but it's really done in terms of like, let's push each other forward, as opposed to some kind of we're against each other. And
also building a community. I feel like filmmaking is a collaborative kind of creature, right? Once everyone comes together, that's how it's put together. And here you guys have put together a group of ladies who are from different parts of the country with different perspectives, with different backgrounds. And that's the best kind of sampling that you could have for any film. So it's really cool that in-house you have your own little sampling before you can actually take it out to everyone
and everybody
else.
I mean, I'm from the US, but like everybody gets in the room and we all just love documentary. So that's like our common language wherever we're from, is like this crazy art form that we're obsessed with for whatever reason. But can I say one thing about the editing? Because I think this is really important when you're talking about climate change, is it can be all kind of gloom and doom and this is horrible. I think every single one of the filmmakers have found some tiny little nugget of hope that they're kind of working towards, whether it's people listening to people that they don't often listen to, or hope that maybe this will change. I mean, so each film it's not all depressing. It has even just a little essence of like hope. So maybe you guys can talk about how you built that into your films, because you both are doing a good job at not making it like you just watch it and you want to curl up into a ball.
which is how I feel when I watch most things, and I wait for that little glimmer of hope because there has to be something there, right? There has to be like we watch documentaries to learn about the subject matter, but also to get hope out of it to see what we can do to change. So, what is it in your films that have you put anything in there, or are you just going to depress us and like we're just going to be really sad after this and be like,
No,
there's no hope for us?
I think so. For us, there are a couple things actually. So there are two aspects that brought hope to the people of Thar. Ek hai bahut mythical. It's a very historical aspect, which is called. There's a tree there called Ak and Neem. Ak and Neem ऐसे trees हैं कि उनकी Hindu mythology, because it's a Hindu गांव, उनकी mythology में है that there's this goddess or goddess's daughter actually who went out and fought the lightning with this Ak and with the Neem in her hands. Right now, but that's kind of twofold. It's an issue because this Ak, now the people who died, there's 6 people actually who died in the village that we go to, and he had Ak in his hand, but he was burned to a crisp, right? Despite having that, so a lot of people, the hope in Ak is dying. However, what another weird aspect of Thar is that climate change has brought a lot of rainfall, and a lot of rainfall comes with more time for their crops. Delayed monsoons mean more monsoons also for longer time and closer to the winter, so they can store more. So technically it has also had a good effect on.
But the lightning is.
But then the lightning is dampening everything too. So it's just twofold. It's not. It's horrible because obviously people are dying, but then there's also a little hope because they have sustenance for longer.
Right.
So it's really complex, the rain over there.
Well, there is hope there.
There
is still hope there, and also people can go and try and find out what is causing it and what the cause and the effect and how they can kind of battle it.
Another issue there is that there's no research, right? So we're also, our hope for the film is that we get it to NGOs or get it to people who want to fund some research over there or some solution. These people, they can't just keep dying,
right?
And it's something that we have caught on a little earlier, maybe. It's just been 8 years in the history of climate change. That's not too much.
Right.
So if we start preventing it now, because usually in climate change you just have to be prepared for it, but now maybe it's because it's quite a beginning stage, which also has reached to 100 people in 5 years. It's not a great statistic, but
look, even if it was 2, it's something that we should be paying attention to because it's happening. It's something that wasn't happening before and now is happening.
And they can put up lightning rods.
Exactly. They want to.
As simple as that.
Right.
Yeah. That's something to just take it away from people. And so they can enjoy the rain again.
Here's hoping there's some scientists watching this podcast and they pay attention and we get some kind of action for those people. What about you?
So I guess when you make a documentary, you ask yourself the question, what do I want to do with this documentary? Like, what's something I want to accomplish?
That's something she told you?
That's something she told us. But that's also something that's very inherent. Anytime you make a film or write a story, or even like if you're sitting at chai gossiping with your friends, you're like, what do I want to tell her? Or like if I'm feeling sad, मैंने इसको रुलाना है आज, या मैंने इसको हंसाना है अगर मेरी दोस्त sad है, right? There's always a purpose to everything.
Yes.
आप अगर documentary बनाने बैठते हो तो you always have a purpose. And this is a theme that appears again and again in my film, that's isolation. This is a society, a community that is isolated because their voices are not heard because people don't know about them. There's a text card in my trailer as well. It's in my film as well. It's called a documented rediscovery. So you're basically rediscovering that thing that's in your city, in your country, that you didn't know really existed, even though you could have gone there anytime, but it's so far removed. So my semblance of hope comes from the fact that while you know that you were guilty of ignorance, by watching this documentary, you are witness to their pain. And you can only start a conversation when you know something is happening. So this is just the very basic step in actually telling people that this is happening. Now you can raise awareness about this. So this is the first step, that we are documenting every single aspect as a case study so that people can bear witness. That's my semblance of hope in the story.
Yay! Can I add something to that? So like that's really excellent that all the program fellows have kind of like reach that point that they're figuring out the reason that they're creating these films, because the entire point that like we work towards documentaries and the reason that we make so many is that we're using that as an advocacy tool.
Right.
You know, like
A platform, essentially.
Yeah, like you talked about the data and the statistics. All of this stuff exists and it's been there for like years and years and years, but no one knows this.
Right.
No one wants to look into it or research on this. But then you see a short film, it doesn't take up a lot of your time, but it humanizes the problem in a way that like Rainfall or like the Maigi, the daycare center that she's running and everything, like these people exist. This is their life. And there are more people like that. And the fact that you're using that film to create that kind of awareness, that kind of advocacy with even not just like the people, but even like the state, the government, the education sector. You can take this and do so much more with it. And that's the whole point of it.
There's one amazing thing about, and this is something that, I mean, you can chime in and like kind of give me a little bit more perspective on it, that with short films or with filmmaking generally, the imagery on the screen, you don't have to even read the numbers or hear, you know, what they're saying. You can feel something by just showcasing a scene.
Yeah.
Without anything else. You know, people resonate with certain aspects
And
that
just
they see.
Juxtaposing images.
Right. So as a tool, like to actually make people actually feel something, I think it's a brilliant tool because it crosses all boundaries of language, of, you know, culture, of everything. Because you're showing real people going through real things, and it could just as well be anywhere in the world right now that this could be happening.
Well, and just some of the cinematography is so beautiful in their films. And there's one in yours. Well, I'm not going to talk about the guy, but I love, there's a tree that was struck by lightning. And then also there's all the green that's happened from the rain. So it's all in one frame.
Right.
The whole story is there. And so they did both, you know, teams, and all the teams have done a great job of trying to figure out, how do you tell this visually?
Right.
And actually, I have been watching rough cuts without any subtitles. And if I can get the story,
That's what I'm saying.
that's the whole point.
The power of storytelling. Yeah, that's excellent. Where can I see your films? I want to watch them now. Where can I see them? Where can we see them? Those guys watching us talk about them. Because you guys have talked about them in such a passionate manner, all four of you, that I mean, all I want to do is watch them now.
Well, so after these guys are done completing their films and everything is ready, and, you know, distribution is something that we let the filmmakers decide for their films themselves. So it's their film. We've helped you however we could to make it, but then beyond that, it's your film. You take it and you do with it as you wish. You take it on the festival circuit. So usually what happens is that most of our fellows, they do the festival route. So it's like 1 year of film festivals, and then they start screening in like private screenings, and then like more public screenings, and then maybe they can go public with actually like screening it on a bigger platform.
Right.
That's completely on the fellows. The world is their oyster. They can do whatever they want with it. And yeah.
And like just the process, like if tomorrow I have a friend asking for a friend who wants to actually apply and register, you're going to have more cycles coming up, right?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
So what's the process?
So what happens is that when we're launching a program, we chalk down all the details, like, you know, what are the themes going to look like, how many program fellows we're taking in this year. We usually take in, we usually have people apply in pairs because it just helps, like, you know, like a sanity check as well. Like, you know, like what you're pitching and how you're going to go about your, I love the expressions on both of their faces when I said that. So, so there's that. So what happens is that once we're ready to launch a program, we go through a month of call for applications. So people apply through our website. We're very active on social media with like promoting it. We use the press for our purpose as well. And they also submit like samples of previous work. Like if you cannot fill an application to save your life, show us what you can do, you know. People are shortlisted and then interviews, and basically that's how people get noticed and get selected. And then we just try to choose who we think would be the best to do what we want them to do.
Right. And then they come up with the idea, and then they meet Jesse, and then things just happen.
Absolutely. And Jesse is like fantastic because they're meeting for the first time. Since April, they've been having online workshops. So just, catching the other person with the time differences and the 2 hour workshops, like that's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
So she's always there. She's always available. They share their cuts with her. They share their problems with her. We don't know, like, this is the story we want, but then we have 3 different narratives going on. We're making a short film. How do we narrow down and create something that would be, of substance and then strong enough to actually get the word out there about the kind of problem that we want to share.
Right.
So for all of that, I mean, Jessie's been excellent. And I mean, she has the eye, which is why she's the mentor, not just the teacher.
On the topic of Jessie, the first words I ever said to Jessie when I met her in real life were, "You exist outside of Zoom.
And I was
You're a real person."
Yeah,
And
and you
all of us were
can't
just like, "Oh
mute
my God,
me."
you exist.
I was like, you can't mute me.
You're real."
You can't. Yeah, it's always amazing to like walk through the screen and be like, oh, like you're real. Like everyone exists in these little, and then there's like a power out, and then everything. But it's like all of a sudden it just, I don't know, it's amazing.
Well, I'm really glad you're here because we got to
True,
meet.
it's so fun.
Yeah, we got to meet and we got to talk about very random things. How do you guys once you do come together and you're going through like hours and hours of editing, this is a break for you, I'm assuming, from your editing cycle. So I thought we'd make it really fun. How do you guys switch on and off? Like, cause you're going through like hours of editing. How do you guys?
The shop and the dance
The
party.
shopping. Oh
We
my
have
God.
dance parties.
The dance parties.
We,
oh my God,
we showed her
introduced her to
Gujarati.
Gujarati.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, okay.
Also, she's now officially had biryani and she loved it, so that was fun. But tell her about the shopping.
Trying
You're
to
in Karachi
assimilate
right
her
now.
into our culture. So we took Jessie shopping because we have a ceremony soon. So we thought that we should take her out, get her an outfit, and we actually went to Generations and found a really great kurta for Jessie.
Very cool.
But also, you're in front of screens all day.
Yeah.
You need a break. And
Yeah.
Jessie especially, like, she needs exercise,
No,
you realize.
I can't sit still. I'm like, okay, everybody get up. We're gonna dance or play with a scarf.
She just gets up in the middle of her day and my back is hurting. I'm 22 years old and my back is hurting and I'm hunched over. And she gets over and starts doing jumping jacks.
No, I have
and I'm
to.
like, girl, I need that in my life.
Learning through experience. You have to do that.
I can't
What
sit still.
is going on? I feel bad because my knee hurt and I was literally rubbing my knee and I was like, my knees hurt, I'm getting old. And then she gets up and she's doing jumping jacks and like all these workouts and I'm like, how do you have that energy? So
You have to remember that you have a body
Right.
when you're editing because it's so easy to be like, "Meh," and then you neglect, you don't eat, you don't do whatever.
Yeah.
So you just have to like remember that you're a human being for just a few minutes and then get back into it.
Where can we see your films?
Oh.
Because I'd like to see those too.
Oh. I mean, I have different kinds of films. I love short films, by the way. That's my thing is like, because I feel like with short films, you can tell a story and then you raise some questions and then people can talk.
Right.
So I'm like very interested in like what happens when the lights come up more
Yeah.
than just, I guess I can send some links through you.
Please,
You want me
yes.
to? I'm happy to.
Absolutely. We
different
would
kinds.
love to watch them and I'm going to put them in the captions too so people can get to know all of your work.
Maybe the trailers can the trailers be? Oh no, sorry.
The trailers are officially launching at the closing event. After that, do whatever you want.
Yeah,
with them.
maybe you can have it on the link with it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can call you back also again and we can break down the trailer as well. This is now you guys live here. I'm keeping you.
It looks like a lounge.
I'm happy.
It is. I feel like we're in a lounge.
Well, I would just like to thank all 4 of you ladies for being here, for coming in, for taking time out of your very, very busy schedules, and coming and speaking with me and letting me pick your brains. And I hope that you guys, not just these films, I hope you continue to make. What's next? What's coming up next? Like after this, after your event is done, after your film is out there, you take it abroad, you come back. What's the next one that you're going to work on? Because I know as filmmakers, they always have like the next 3 in their heads.
Yeah. So my partner and I already have something in the making. So like it's just in the very baby stages. So there's one story that we found in Redigoat. A lot of the fishermen, because there's nothing to be found in the water, they go to deep waters, right? And even when they find nothing there, they cross over the border to India.
Right.
So there are like families upon families some of them returned, some of them never did return. So they're over there in India in jails and everything. So that's a story we're looking to pursue. So it's just something we're researching on at the moment.
So from the docks
Yeah.
to the deep water.
So from the docks to the deep water.
In deep water.
title
Yeah.
already.
We have the title. Oh my God, thank
In
you.
deep water.
We have
Credit
it.
me.
I will.
From the docks to deep water.
Special thanks.
For me, I am already working on the documentary on Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan.
Yes, of
It'll
course.
take a year-ish to make, so I'll be quite busy with that. But when it comes to climate change, we were first researching everywhere in Pakistan, and that's a lot of stories. So we had to narrow it down.
Yeah.
But we decided, Namra and I were thinking that maybe we can apply for more grants, get some more grants on climate change, and go to different cities and mainly talk about how climate is affecting culture
Right.
and cultural preservation, perhaps. So we found a nice story in Chitral, which is great because they are trying to preserve their old indigenous languages through music. But no one's really speaking the language anymore because they
Right.
keep moving.
Up
right?
our alley here.
Really?
At City FM
Give me
89.
some money.
So I have no money,
Okay.
but those guys watching have money.
Yeah.
So guys, please support short films in Pakistan because you get to see these lovely ladies make amazing stuff.
Especially as urban and people like who always live in urban societies, you
Yeah.
don't really get to see villages, you don't get to see other cities so well in this short, just 10 minutes of your day, and you see a whole city and you resonate with how beautiful so many cities of Pakistan are. It's not just the mountains, it's a lot more.
Well, more power to you guys, and I cannot wait to watch everything that's going to come out of you guys in the future, in the very near future. And also, thank you so much for putting together a program like this to your organization, because a lot of people out there don't know that this is happening.
Yes,
No.
that's true.
A lot of people out there don't know. A lot of the kids in this building, I had to tell. I know because I follow you guys like a hawk, but other people don't know about this. So it's fantastic that you guys are doing this, that you're empowering young women to come out and tell their stories and tell other people's stories. So more power to you guys too, and give them funding too, so that they can help these guys get their films.
Yes,
out there.
that would be great. Thank you.
And it was, of course, very lovely to meet you. And I hope that this is not the only time you're coming here. And like you come back, we'll have a dance party right here in our studio.
But and also just to their credit, like it's happening. Like this is happening. Like after a few years,
Yeah.
you can really start to see this
The
ecosystem
community.
happening, and it's incredible.
Well, I'm really glad that I got to be a part of it, even for just these 30 or so minutes. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, and share, like, subscribe, comment, and all of the above.